Hello fellow immortals! With several Civ 7 games completed and thousands of hours in previous Civ titles, I'm going to give you tips, insights, and opinions as concise and fast as possible. Keep in mind, with every Society I guide from antiquity, I am learning something new, largely due to the fact that the game does a horrible job in communicating mechanics, so strap in. First, Civilization 7 borrows a little from RPGs, creating a leveling mechanic for leaders, providing more than Steam achievements to incentivize replayability. As you level a leader, you unlock mementos, which confers some buff or change. These are shared, meaning you can use the breastplate memento gained from leveling Augustus on Benjamin Franklin. There are 3 distinct ages, each with slightly differing focus related to resources and settlements. Think of these almost as interconnected minigames, as moving from one age to the next serves in some ways as a soft reset. Lastly, before you set off for greatness, you choose a civilization. That's right, similar to the other 4X game Humankind, it's societal musical chairs, where you can choose any leader to guide any society. Moreover, as you go from one age to the next, you'll choose a different civilization. So yeah, that means you can say goodbye to your Aztecs in modern armor. It kinda sucks. I love that. I love seeing my Mayans or Aztecs in stealth aircraft and all that, but well, that's the way it goes now. With each leader and civilization having different perks combined with the ability to select 2 mementos, there's a pretty decent level of pre-game scheming and optimization to be had. Similar to the past civs, the selection of your first city is critical, but for different reasons. As always, you want a city with access to fresh water because it will affect happiness, a new commodity we'll be diving into later. Blue represents access to fresh water, yellow does not, and red simply means you can't settle there. Attractive starting tiles are decided by proximity to resources. Most important in the early game are those that provide bonuses to food to allow for rapid growth. This starting point gives us proximity to jade, marble, gold, and wine, only the latter of which is marginally useful for early game. Let's settle and start with the scout. Right away you can see the game's intention to reduce the number of rounds with nothing to do. In just one turn we get the scout instead of having to click 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 waiting for our first unit to be born. Opening the tech research menu, you'll notice a plus icon next to each tech, or at least some techs. These represent bonuses which will automatically be applied across your civ. For example, by researching pottery, we'll get access to the brickyard building, but we'll also get a +1 food on plantations and +1 production on clay pits. The brickyard provides bonus production on mines and quarries, which looks like we're gonna have a few of, so let's start there. As we look to choose our first building, we run into a seismic change in Civ 7. No longer will your city sprawl on its own with workers toiling under your lash to make improvements. Now the sprawl is the core of city building. Every tile you place must be contiguous, so planning entails how best you want to snake around plots to gobble up attractive tiles and set up districts for maximum adjacency. There are 2 district types, urban and rural. Think of urban tiles as containers for buildings which can hold up to 2, while rural tiles are what we used to know as improvements, farms, quarries, mines, etc. Whereas the learning curve of Civ 6 was largely focused on the strategic placement of districts to maximize adjacency bonuses, that now applies to urban districts with buildings, but in a much more obtuse and confusing way. Urban tiles, or rather some buildings, are the only things capable of benefiting from adjacency, so you don't need to agonize too much when placing down rural tiles. Just keep in mind where you want to grow towards, maximize yields, and grab those resources. You could also replace these later on, and that's actually a key tactic which we'll go into in a little bit. Okay, before we go into buildings, let's discuss semantics since we're getting into a more nuanced part of the game. In other words, the learning curve slope starts here. Buildings consist of 2 varieties, ageless and age-specific. Ageless are often warehouses, which is yet another term meaning they provide powerful settlement-wide bonuses by type. For example, the granary grants +1 food to all farms, pastures, and plantation tiles. Ageless buildings can be built in any age and their bonuses persist. Now of course, as a city turns farms into parking lots with more and more urban tiles edging out rural ones, this bonus will naturally decrease. Age-specific buildings are often those that benefit from adjacency, and it's those bonuses that are lost from age to age. Let's put our granary down here in order to start making our way to that wine. With the scout ready for adventure, we're going to go off plunder some goody huts. On the next turn, we will grow our city for the first time, allowing us to put a rural tile. Notice that we can't grab that wine quite yet because the granary isn't complete, so we'll start making our way towards the gold by putting down a farm in that direction. Okay, so a couple turns went by, we have our second opportunity to grow. I could choose this tile up here, 2 food, so it can grow a little faster, or I can go ahead and grab that gold. I'm going to get the gold in order for us to start talking about happiness. There are two types, local and global. Here's the local. You can see by looking at the settlement's detail, it does what you expect it to do. If it goes down, your yields start to suffer. You have a chance for revolt. And then there's global. You can see the ticker up at the top. You can click on the socials policies to see how close you are to a celebration. And that's the key for global happiness. It kicks off a celebration which lets you choose between 1 or 2 bonuses depending on your government, but more importantly, it unlocks a social policy slot. So we're going to go ahead and grab the gold. Quick scout tip: since you want to find those goody huts as quickly as possible and they have a movement of 2, you can move 1 tile, then hit the search option to increase their lookout radius and find those huts. You can see I just did that, uncovering 1 such goody hut to the northeast, which I'm going to go grab as quickly as possible. I almost forgot to talk about resources after we picked up that gold. Sorry, there's just so much to cover. Okay. Going into the resource menu up here, we see that we did indeed get that resource and it's providing a global benefit. However, you also see slots next to my settlement. Most resources need to be slotted, and what's more, there are different types such as city-specific and bonus, which limits where they can be placed. In addition, you'll only be able to swap these around when a new resource is acquired. Look, I'm not a big fan of this mechanic, to be honest. The whole limited slots and restrictions on when they can be moved around, which gets to be a much bigger headache in the modern age when so many resources are factory specific, but anyways, I guess that's how it is. I wonder if that will change going forward. A turn later, I hit my first narrative event. Again, leaning a little into an RPG, you'll occasionally be given some flavor text along with a decision to make, which will give you either some benefit or start you off on a quest. Some of these moments are tied to your leader with varying rarities, so the point here is to fill the gaps in turns with something interesting while letting you continue guiding your civ in a specific direction. As I'm going military this time with Augustus, I'll go with promoting my commander quest. Also, we hit our first civic policy research decision. There are 2 types, run-of-the-mill policies and those tied to your civ called traditions, which you can use in the following ages. For now, I'm going to go with researching discipline in order to get that free army commander, which is unique to Rome. All in this turn, we are now also going to choose our form of government, which I mentioned earlier allows us to decide among 2 temporary bonuses when we hit a celebration, which comes from the accumulation of happiness. I'm going to go with being a despot in order to get a science boost or help with my warlike tendencies and get that boost in training infantry. Ooh, busy turn, as we will also choose policies. Now, normally you only get to choose 1 at the start, but I am getting both since I started with the memento that gives me an extra slot. Pretty cool. Next turn, we meet our first leader, Harriet Tubman of the Aksumite, and now it's time to talk about influence, a new commodity that allow you to engage in diplomacy in a deeper level than any other civ game. This resource is spent to send something to another, which can often either be accepted, supported, or rejected. Accepted is a neutral path, conferring a bonus to you and sometimes a minor bonus to the other leader. Supporting something will grant a larger bonus to both of you, but it will cost influence, and rejecting nullifies the option, but it also costs influence. This opens up some diplomatic tactics, but spending influence is something you should do very carefully, as it is probably the most valuable resource in the game. You can now seriously impact other civs using sanctions, and it's used to gobble up independent powers, what we knew as city-states before, and help with waging war. I usually hoard my influence, waiting for the other leader to offer something, giving me the option of what to do when the option is presented. Here is our first example. Harriet wants us to put on a local festival, so I have the choice of simply accepting, giving me a bit more influence while she gets happiness, spending some influence to reject and just shoot it all down, or supporting us to give us each 3 happiness. I'm going to accept, holding on to my influence while earning more of it per turn. Now, with my granary complete, the next time I grow, I can finally grab that wine, which, since it's a plantation, will get the benefit from the building we just put down, giving me +3 food, and that happiness is going to get me towards a celebration faster. I don't need to slot this resource since it's global. The wine also gives some culture during a celebration, but honestly, that's not that big a deal. Alright, let's see, another narrative choice. Ooh, I haven't seen one like this. I wonder if this came in the recent patch. Okay, well, I'm going to choose the one that gives me more influence. Cool. Alright, so now I want to talk about a new tactic, an evil tactic. Let's call it the eviction notice. Let's say I really want a resource, but I don't want to wait to grow. No problem. All we need to do is kick someone off their land. See this marble over here? Let's say I really want this resource and I want it right now. I'm impatient. All I need to do is decide to build a new urban district on some land that has a rural district. So I'm going to evict these people who have probably been farming this land now for generations, who cares, and build the brickyard on their former home. They still need some place to live, so I'm going to put them in that tile, so now they're going to be trading in their sickles for chisels and make them give me that resource, the eviction notice. Whew, alright, that is long enough for part 1. Please like, follow, share, and all that, and stay tuned as we continue our path to glory as Augustus, the leader of the Roman Empire, where I continue to share my insights and thoughts throughout the ages. Thanks, everyone.